Welcome back. Thank you for joining me again. My name is Douglas Grummons. This is a continued reading of my second book that I wrote called Songs of the Buddhas. And we left off with half of chapter 1 over with Layne singing his hauntingly beautiful and maybe a little depressive lyrics, but stay with me and watch how it gets turned around. So anyway, back to the text. Layne sings to us, "The river of deceit pulls down. Oh, oh, the only direction we flow is down." And I comment that all forms of deceit pull down. Even changing one single word in a book creates a subtle form of deceit. The only direction we flow is down. Layne is simply stating a fact. The key word is flow. The nature of the word flow is downward, except for the subtle things that we cannot see, like energy. Energy can flow downwards and it can flow upwards. When energy flows downwards, the law of gravitation applies. The law of gravity applies. When energy flows upwards, the law of levitation applies. And I'm not sure if Layne knew anything about the law of levitation or how energy can rise. I'm not sure if he practiced any method to raise energy levels. My feeling is that he did know something of the subtle energies that can be raised. Why would Layne Staley write a song about deceit and then mention a prophet if he did not feel something of the higher was not working within him? So when I first began meditating, I stumbled upon something immensely valuable. I watched a video clip on quantum physics. The video clip talked about the possibilities of time travel. As a meditator, I felt the only way for time travel to be possible would be if I created a gap in time, if I created a space in me or for me to be able to leap back into. And looking back, it was a silly idea, but the gaps of silence that I created raised my energy levels. The gaps at first were only a few seconds long. The more I meditated, the larger the gaps grew. In these moments of no thought, time did not exist. The gaps kept growing the more I meditated, and before I knew it, I would disappear for over 30 minutes. And these gaps raised my energy levels, and I felt that the energy shifts as my consciousness raised into higher dimensions. I soon realized time exists on a horizontal plane. Time consists only of past and future. Time cannot exist in the present moment. And when I stilled my mind, I existed 100% in the present moment. And that's why I was feeling like time did not exist. The mind also exists on this horizontal line between past and the future. The mind cannot exist in the present moment. Watch when something drastic happens, like a car accident, and you will not be able to think because all of your energies are pulled 100% into the present moment. When you meditate and you have a moment of stillness, you step out of the construct of the mind and out of time itself. Notice I use the word stillness and not silence. There is silence in the stillness of the mind. No matter what kind of noise is outside, when the mind stills, it is all calm inside. So remember this, the eyes are the masculine energy. We see outward, therefore the energy is assertive or masculine. And that's why people close their eyes to meditate. It is easier for the beginning meditator to close their eyes and meditate. The ears are receptive, on the other hand. You could say they are a feminine energy. We cannot close off our ears. The only way I have found that it works for me is to just accept my surroundings and open up to all the sounds that I hear when meditating. You do not try to block out all the sounds. Just let them blend into your soul. Giving energy toward trying to block out any sound just creates friction and disturbs your meditation. So go into your meditation with no expectations. Just watch your thoughts. Just let yourself melt into existence. Do not feed the thoughts, just watch them. If you watch with awareness and are receptive, the gaps of stillness will come. The key is to be receptive. Give existence a space to enter into you. And once you feel the gap for yourself, then you will see and feel what I am talking about. Freedom from the mind's tension will bring bliss, even if only for a few seconds. You will feel energy rising, and this bliss will fill your soul. As the energy rises more and more, you will start to have more clarity. More subtle energies will start emerging, and your contact or your feeling of contact with God or existence will strengthen. So keep meditating for the sheer enjoyment of it. Never look for any goal. As soon as I'm going to step out of the text though, as soon as you start looking for a goal, then meditation disappears. Meditation is the goal itself. So back to the text. I say, as soon as you give 51% of your energy back to existence, then a transformation occurs. After the transformation, you are freed from the stress of time. The forces of gravity will not pull your energies anymore. This is when the law of levitation will apply. There is an ancient koan told a long time ago in Japan about a great Zen master, and a koan is a riddle with no answer. A Zen master took a young gooseling and put it into a very expensive bottle. The bottle's opening was just big enough to fit the little young gooseling through at birth. The bottle was one of the Zen master's most prized possessions, and as the years went on, the goose grew and was trapped inside this bottle. And when the goose became so large that he could not fit in the bottle anymore, the Zen master did not know what to do. He could not break the bottle. He loved it too much. He could not hurt the goose either, but he had to get him out. So what to do? The goose is your consciousness, and your mind is the bottle. When you meditate, and the gaps come, and the goose is out of the bottle, if only for a few seconds, you leave the mind, and the goose is out during those gaps. After 51% of all your energies are out of the mind, then getting out of the rest, or getting the rest of the goose out, is easy. Then you are no longer trapped in a prison. Then you are free. Then superconsciousness takes over. Your energies no longer exist on a horizontal plane. They exist on a vertical plane. And this is my vision of the cross. Time is on the horizontal plane. Past is one extreme, and the future is the other extreme. On the vertical plane, gravitation is at the bottom and levitation is at the top. Just as at exactly the middle, an explosion occurs. The cross is equal on all sides, having the same meaning regardless of orientation. Now I'll step out of the text and just say for a minute that when the goose is out of the bottle, through meditating, when you experience moments of consciousness without thought, then the goose is out of the bottle, but the bottle doesn't break. And the bottle is basically your body, your mind, your soul, your energy. And then your consciousness goes back into the bottle when you're done meditating. But when you become an experienced meditator and you've meditated long enough, then the goose is out of the bottle almost 99% of the time. But the bottle is still available because that is your body. Okay, back to the text. And I used to have a martial arts instructor who was very wise. Many times he would lecture on every perspective on the technique. And he was teaching. One particular angle he taught us was to take the negative and learn more about the positive. It's like making a cast of someone's head. The cast is the negative, and from the cast you can make another replica of the same head. So the negative can be turned into the positive. At first, the lyrics of this song seem negative, but when we look at the lyrics with a ray of awareness, they shed light into something or some of the deepest questions lurking within our souls. When I listen to this song, I don't feel emotions of depression or sadness. My heart fills with joy because Layne is trying to make the world a little more aware of the trickiness of deceit, deceitful ways of mankind. Layne sings to us, "My pain is self-chosen, at least I believe it to be." And back to the text, Layne is admitting that he does not know. He is not enlightened. He is just a musician who is feeling the pain, and now he wishes that the whole world would not have to feel this pain. Layne continues singing, "I could either drown or pull off my skin and swim to shore. And now I can grow a beautiful shell for all to see." And back to the text. At this point, Layne is still keeping it personal. He is saying, "My pain is self-chosen. At least I believe it to be." He has not said he knows it to be. The word belief is cheap. It takes no effort to prove or disprove his hypothesis. Whether it is self-chosen or not, just blindly believing in something will not change you. You can believe or not believe, and you are still in the same place. You have not moved because the belief and non-belief are two sides of the same coin. A blind man does not know what color is. He has to take it for granted that the sky is blue. He has no concept of the color blue. He lives his life without knowing. He believes the sky is blue because what others have told him that it is so. What the blind man needs is eyes so that he can see the color for the sky of the sky for himself. Then he can go on with the rest of his life knowing the truth instead of just believing. Awareness is like sight, is like light for the mind. With a ray of light, you can see your way in the dark. With a ray of awareness, you can see past beliefs. A couple of years ago, I became a priest, not because I wanted to preach to anyone. I did it so I could wed two of my closest friends. I wanted to be the one to bless their wedding. They introduced me to one of their friends who died for a short time while in the hospital. And this fellow told me that he did not believe in God because when he died, he did not see anything. He said, all I saw was darkness. And I asked him, with what eyes did you have to see? Even in broad daylight, fear can blind you. So what do you say about the eyes that you have never used yet? We assume that we will be able to see and think, except your brain and all its cells will be dead. So if you die with fear in your heart, then you will die and you'll only see darkness. Fear shrouds the light and the mind's eye. As soon as you have accepted your passing and shed your fear, beings of light will appear. Beings of darkness feed off your fear and negative energy. I had a horrible wipeout while surfing in Santa Cruz one year. I fell off my board on a really big wave and was held down for the longest time. I was held down for so long that I gave in. I accepted my fatality and I let go of this life. I went limp and closed my eyes, and as I gave in, I was filled with light. I saw golden light, and then I felt this pulling sensation around my collar. Next thing I knew, I was on top of the water again and still alive. I looked around to thank someone for saving me and saving my life, and no one was there. No one was anywhere around me. It is your choice to live or to die in darkness or in light. Again, I'd like to say that it does not really matter if our pain is self-chosen. What really matters is how to get past all this pain and all the forms of emotional and spiritual pain. The only way to get past the pain is to bring awareness into the pain itself. Face the pain head on, without fear. The pain will only intensify itself until the day it comes when you finally say, enough. I will no longer live in fear. This type of fear is a disease. When you break up the word disease, you get two words, dis and ease, disease. Something or someone is creating this disease when you feel like you are in a river of deceit, getting ready to drown, ready to throw away the life that you have been given. Facing your fears and pains by bringing awareness into them is like bringing a diseased root of a tree up from the ground and into the light. When this happens, the diseased root dies, and so does the disease. The disease cannot live in the light, and nor can your fears or your pains. So tell yourself enough. It's time to stop and to get past your pain. Tell yourself you will no longer live in fear. No matter what the fear or the pain, it is time to face it. Bring it into the light and kill the disease. The way to bring awareness into your pain is to look at it from all angles. Ask yourself, why is this fear controlling me? Ask yourself, why wouldn't my life be better without it? Accept the pain and go into it with awareness, and you will see that it cannot exist without fear, to shroud it in darkness. When I was in my 20s, I started having digestive problems. I became anemic, and for years, doctors could not tell me what was causing my health issues. I tried every diet, acid reducers, Chinese medicine, acupuncture. I prayed. I did everything I could have done. I saw every doctor that could possibly see me, and nobody could figure out why I was so sick and why I was almost like dying off. I kept getting skinnier and skinnier. Still, all the doctors kept telling me the same thing. We know all of your symptoms, but we do not know what's causing all this. And all my prayers did not help. I just kept getting worse and worse. Then I started meditating. And after a few months of meditating, I started noticing patterns. That there were days when I tried to meditate and I could not get into the state of mindfulness or the mindfulness states that I usually could get into. I started writing a diary of what I ate and compared my notes on the days that I could not meditate properly and the days that I could. And that's when I noticed that certain foods like corn blocked my meditations. It created a confusion in me. So I cut out corn from my diet, and that stopped the blocks. Still, I was not out of the woods. I had to research and finally find out every form of corn and eliminate them all from my diet. The sensitivities that I had developed could have kept getting worse. I needed to find out what was causing them. Then one day I was researching symptoms of metal sensitivity, and I found that people with nickel sensitivity, especially with metal bridgework in their mouths, could have all the symptoms that I had. So I went to my dentist and I had the metal removed from my mouth, and it was like a miracle happened. My health came back. And then I found that a steady regimen of B12s and B3 vitamins would help fight off my sensitivities. And within a year, I was back to my old self, all healthy and full of life and vitality. Prayer brought me to meditation, and the awareness of meditation brought me back to health. A wise man once said, prayer will get you to the porch of God's house. It will not get you in the door, but only meditation will open the door, and then you have to walk in. And then Layne sings to us, or pull off my skin and swim to shore. And I comment, meditation is going inside, pulling off your skin and swimming to shore. The word meditation and the word medication come from the same root meaning, and that root means to be whole, healthy, to help you to be whole. The words whole, holy, and healthy all come from the same root as well, and that denotes becoming one, to be complete. And Layne sings to us, now I can grow a beautiful shell for all to see. And I comment, in the East, the shell is thought to be the ego, and they are taught from the early years of life that the ego is bad, so they never develop strong egos. They were told that the ego would hinder their spiritual growth. And in the West, we are brought up with the belief that the ego is a good thing. We were never told that the ego was a bad thing. We were never told that the ego would hinder our spiritual growth. And now we live in a world where the East has met the West. We're living in a more globally united world. The truth is that the ego will hinder spiritual growth eventually, but during your younger years, it is like an eggshell. It protects you. It helps you get a job, get a good job, and helps help you find a suitable partner in life. When a person accomplishes these primary things in life, and the time comes for him to become spiritual, then the shell must be shed. Usually this happens around the age of 29 to 35. And when I usually say, I mean if they lived healthy lives, free of drugs and the abuse of alcohol. The ego can serve a purpose, and when its purpose is no longer needed, it must be dropped. In all my years of meditating up to May 3rd, 1998, I never worked on any methods of eliminating the ego. All I worked on was bringing awareness into all my actions. I tried to put loving care and awareness into everything that I did. My father was always on my back and very careful not to let me develop an ego. Then, when I was 16, I busted my top jaw in an accident. I lost several of my front teeth and developed a complex about my smile. My ego never really crystallized or became too much of a problem. And after May of 1998, I found that I had shed whatever ego that I had. Now I had to be even more aware of an ego coming in from the back door. The ways of the ego are very subtle, and when your spirit grows beyond the boundaries of the shell, they become even more subtle. Any shell will outgrow its use. Then it'll have to be dropped. And then Layne sings to us, the pain is self-chosen. Yeah, our pain is self-chosen. And I comment, a long time ago, God used to live and walk among the people. He had a house right in the village. And as the days went on, people would stop by and visit, and they loved having God as a neighbor. But every time they visited, it was the same old questions. Why did you make us? What is the purpose of life? What happens after we die? Knowing that the truth was too big to be contained in the human mind, he had a dilemma. He knew that he would not be able to live among the villagers for much longer. And not knowing where to move, he asked the wisest men and women from the village what he should do. One wise man said, move to the deep forest. No one will find you there. And God said, no, eventually someone will find me there. Another friend said, move to the top of Mount Everest. No one has ever gone there. God said, eventually someone would find me there as well. Then another wise person said, I know. Move to the moon. No one will ever go there to find you. And God said, no, eventually some fool will find a way there too. Then a young girl listened to all these old fools trying to give God advice, blurted out, I know where you could go. No one will find you. And God looked at her and he said, with a ray of innocence in her eyes, and asked, where would that be? And she answered, in the human heart. No one would think of finding you there. And God agreed, and that's where he has lived since that day. In a moment of intense awareness, Layne realized his pain is our pain too. We have been brought up and raised by our parents, teachers, and priests. And these people were brought up by their parents, teachers, and priests as well. And it is a continuous cycle that keeps repeating itself. What our forefathers were told and taught to believe is the same thing that we have been taught. God lives somewhere far away, and we cannot meet him until we die. And this is half true and half not true. There is a death. They call it the ultimate death. It happens when the shell of the ego is dropped. And when you finally stop living in the world of the mind and you move your energies back into your heart, this is where you'll find God waiting. He has always been there and will never leave. He cannot leave because he is you. The only thing that separates you from him is movement in the right direction. The continuous cycle must be broken. The only way the cycle can be broken is to help your spirit grow. Use every tool that you can, like pray, love, meditate, appreciate, enjoy this life. Learn to listen to existence by meditating and stilling the mind. Existence is trying to help you from every direction. There are over 1,000 enlightened people existing on this planet. In this very moment, existence will guide you to these lights when you are ready to drop the non-essential and realize the essential. For all of existence, at all times, God has had at least one light burning on this earth. God has always had at least one enlightened person living and helping others to find their way home. Jesus has said that one mustard seed can turn the whole world green, and one enlightened person has that power. He or she doesn't even have to do anything. They just exist. Their presence alone beautifies the world. Buddhism was spreading all over China, and for 600 years, the emperor of China loved this man's philosophy. Buddha's words were so beautiful to the emperor. The emperor financed the building of hundreds of Buddhist temples, and he had over 600 years, and it had been over 600 years since Buddha lived and walked the earth. While Buddhism was spreading like wildfire in China, there was not one enlightened person in China. News of Buddhism spread in China reached India. An enlightened woman master decided to send to China an enlightened person. The enlightened person chosen was Bodhidharma. And news of Bodhidharma's coming had reached the emperor. The emperor heard that a great enlightened man was coming to China, so he decided to throw him a grand welcoming. The emperor gathered all the royalty and important people from his kingdom to come meet this enlightened man. And when Bodhidharma arrived at the king's palace in front of all these important people, and the emperor dressed up in his beautiful robes, Bodhidharma saw all these egos flaring. So he took off his shoe and walked around the party with one shoe on his head. And the emperor was embarrassed. And he said, this is the great man that was sent to us, making me look like a fool? Still, the emperor was curious about one question. So he asked Bodhidharma, what was his reward in heaven after building all these churches and supporting Buddhism the way he did? Bodhidharma answered by telling him that he would have no reward in heaven. And on the contrary, he would be cast into the seventh hell. The emperor was outraged and demanded an explanation. And Bodhidharma told him that he had only spread darkness all over the land. He had done much more harm than he had done good. Now Bodhidharma's work would be doubled. The emperor was doing what everybody else had been doing to you, what they all thought was the right thing. The parents and their parents have done in the same down through the ages. Fortunately for China, Bodhidharma's light spread all over China and then moved on to Japan. when Bohidorama's light shined in Japan, it meant Lao Tzu's wisdom from Taoism. And when the two of these flowers combined, a beautiful crossbreed evolved. That crossbreed has been known as Zen. And Zen flowered and grew into a large tree in Japan. And unfortunately, as Western influence descended, the flowers started dying. But fortunately for America, we are turning our eyes toward the East. We are the melting pot of a union of all energies, and it is converging on us. We have been given the opportunity to commune or continue Zen's traditions and crossbreed Zen with our own awareness. We can bring new flowers into existence, and we have the ability to discover godliness and create flowers that have never been seen before. To Layne's family, I would like to say thank you. Layne shined like no other. He was a unique soul, and his words will live on in many hearts. I really love listening to Layne's music. It's very deep and good music to listen to on a rainy day, one of those kind of bands. But anyway, thank you again for joining me. My name is Douglas Grummons, and this is the chapter 1 of Songs of the Buddhas, the second book I wrote. Thank you again for joining me. You guys take care of yourselves. We'll pick up again with chapter 2, which is John Lennon's Imagine. It's a commentaries on John Lennon that should spark a few interests, but we'll see how that goes. Anyway, thanks again for joining me. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.